If you're having a hard time adding muscle, it can be really difficult to find real answers. And it can be very frustrating when you're just hearing, oh man, you're like an ectomorph and there's 3 body types and it's genetic and sorry about your luck. And this video is not going to be about specific body routines to add muscle mass. You gotta be tired of hearing, oh man, you gotta do a 3x12x6 set with an applesauce slider retread and a Grant Konkowski philosophy horn section remodel and what? Apple what? This is not what you're missing. To stimulate muscle growth, a person needs to pick up something heavy and then put it down and then pick it up again. And that's stimulating the body to create that muscle. And what's going on is that when the body's kind of saying, oh man, I can't do what this idiot's trying to get me to do, I need to create more muscle volume and strength so that this body can do what this guy is trying to make me do. And that's when the muscle becomes stronger and adds that muscle. Now, that's not to say that specific routines or specific types of workouts can't be beneficial. They really can. But when a person's having a hard time adding muscle and he's doing these steps and he's working out hard, the problem is usually that there are malfunctions or imbalances that are restricting the body from adding that muscle, or there are problems that are causing the body to break that muscle down as fast as you're rebuilding it. So in this video, I'm going to help you understand how to figure out if those issues are going on for you, and if so, what steps you can take to correct those. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So we're going to go over 5 steps to help you figure out why you're having such a hard time adding muscle. And at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a bonus step that nobody is telling you about. And some of these steps are going to be more important for you than other steps, but none of these steps are going to be like, oh, you got to find the perfect weight gain powder, or you just need a blender where you can liquefy your iPhone and everything's going to work out. No, we want to look at how the body is supposed to work and malfunctions that are restricting this from happening for you. Step number 1 is to fix any digestive symptoms. I know, what are you talking about? But if you want to build muscle, you need resources. If you want to build anything, you need resources, you need materials. If you're going to build a house, you would need nails or wood or bricks or whatever you're going to build that house out of, or your housewarming party is going to be a bunch of people standing in your yard eating egg salad. You need resources to build something. So your body needs resources to build muscle. So what happens is when we eat food, our stomachs make hydrochloric acid, or HCl. And this HCl is meant to help us acidify and start to break down the food that we ate. And then once that food is acidified, it leaves the stomach and goes into the duodenum, which is the first 10 inches of the small intestine. And that's when the gallbladder squirts this alkaline bile down onto the acidic product. So when this acid product from the stomach meets the alkaline bile, when they collide, that creates a sizzle. And that sizzle is what's really helping you bust that food apart and get all the nutrients out of that food, all those amino acid building blocks, all those minerals, all those vitamins, all the things that your body needs to repair and rebuild itself. So if you're having any digestive symptoms like burping or bloating or acid reflux or constipation or diarrhea or nausea or skin or acne issues, or maybe your food just kind of sits there like a rock in your stomach for hours, all of those are signs that you're not digesting your food correctly and you don't have the ability to break that food down and get the nutrients out of that food. So how are you going to rebuild anything when the body doesn't have the tools to do the rebuilding? The problem is it's really common today for someone not to be making enough stomach acid. And it's really common for someone's bile to become too thick and sticky to flow correctly. So if either of those sides of digestion are not working correctly, you're not getting that sizzle and you're not accessing the nutrients in your food. So we'll put a link in the description below this video for our video on 10 signs of low stomach acid and our other video on 10 signs of poor bile flow. And you can check those out to see, oh, do I have signs of that I'm not breaking down my food correctly and getting the nutrients out of that? And my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, chapters 3 and 4, walk you through how to figure out which aspects of digestion may not be working correctly and what steps will help you correct those problems. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'm going to put a link in the description below so you can get the whole thing totally for free. And that'll walk you through that process. But if you're busting your butt in the gym trying to build this muscle, but your body doesn't have the resources to do any of that building, then you're really just wasting your time. Maybe you get to look at somebody pretty while you work out, but you're not going to get the results that you want to see. We're going to come back to this in a second, but step number 2 is to correct what we call a catabolic imbalance. And when I was in high school, I couldn't get over 100 pounds. I just couldn't add any muscle. I was working out hard and I just couldn't put anything on. And I understand now what was going on, but this was one of the biggest problems for me, and it's likely going to be one of the biggest problems for a lot of you. And it was Dr. Emanuel Revici who helped us understand that the body has a natural circadian rhythm at the cellular level. So during the day, our body should be in this more catabolic state where it's very good at breaking down tissues so that those tissues can be rebuilt and renewed, and the body is very good at creating energy and kind of keeping us going all day. And then at night, the body should move into a more anabolic state. And this is the state where the body is very good at sleeping and resting and rebuilding and repairing. So both of these states are appropriate. We want both of them. The problem is a lot of people, for a wide variety of reasons, can get stuck in one of those states most of the time, or they get pushed too far into one of those states. And when that's the case, it can create a wide variety of issues. Now, you've probably heard the word anabolic when people talk about taking anabolic steroids. And people do this when they want to have their neck the size of an alien action figure and they want to look like all kinds of craziness. And so they're pushing themselves as far as they can into this anabolic rebuild state so that they can build as much muscle as possible. The problem is that this can create a lot of health problems, not only just from the steroids themselves, but being pushed too far into that anabolic state can create a whole lot of trouble. But if a person is really stuck in this catabolic state most of the time, then at night they're not really moving into that anabolic rebuild and repair state. So it's never really getting rebuilt. The tissues break down during your workouts, but you're not moving into the state where the body can truly rebuild them, so you're not getting the benefits from those workouts. But if a person can understand how to correct this imbalance using food choices or maybe some supplements that could help push you more into that anabolic state, then not only can they correct this catabolic imbalance that's restricting the body from rebuilding and repairing, but they may be able to push themselves even a little bit further into that state at night when the body should be more anabolic, and help their body repair and rebuild even more effectively. Because if a person is really stuck in this catabolic breakdown state all the time, then their body is going to be breaking down tissue more than it's going to be rebuilding. Even if you do rebuild a little tissue, if you're stuck breaking down all the time, then your body's just going to break it down again. So a person could take steps like eating eggs with a runny yolk in it. Those seem to be very pro-anabolic. Heavy cream can be very pro-anabolic, and there's other food choices and supplements that we talk about in my book that help you figure out which are the appropriate steps for you. And we'll also put a link in the description below for our video on is your circadian rhythm off, and that'll help you understand if you might be leaning too far on that catabolic side, or maybe if you're in a good anabolic state enough to build muscle, and maybe we need to look at some of these other issues. But correcting a catabolic imbalance will likely be one of the biggest steps for a lot of people watching this video. Now, step number 3 is to give your body those building blocks. So if a person's eating out of a vending machine, they're not getting any real nutrients that the body needs to rebuild and repair those tissues. And if a person isn't digesting those foods correctly, they could be eating very healthy foods, but if the body can't break it down, it's just rotting and fermenting and creating all these toxins that become a burden for the body. So we really want to be able to supply that body with the building blocks it needs. And what it really needs is amino acids. And that means that proteins, they have to be consumed, but they also really need to be broken down correctly so the body can turn those into those amino acid building blocks that the body can use to rebuild that tissue. Because if those resources are not coming into the body, well, the body needs them anyways to run a lot of functions that it does throughout the day and the night. So if it's not coming in, then the body's going to access it on its own. It's going to shop at the 7-Eleven. Well, guess what? You're the 7-Eleven. So if the body isn't getting amino acids and minerals and vitamins and all these other things that it needs, it will break down your own tissues, even access nutrients from your bones, or break down your organs in order to get the nutrients that it needs to function. So here's the hint. You need your organs. And when I was young, I had what's called a spontaneous pneumothorax. And what happens is your lung just kind of collapses. And they say, oh, it happens a lot for very healthy, skinny males, and we don't really understand why. But it seems that what's going on is that the body, when it's not getting amino acids and it's not getting nutrients from proteins like it should, it'll break down your own organs, and lungs are very easy to break down and access nutrients from those proteins. So I was basically just eating my own body until my lung just collapsed and didn't work anymore. So this can be very important to make sure that your body's getting the resources it needs so that it can rebuild those tissues. Step number 4 is to correct any hypoglycemia issues. Now, we understand that insulin is a very pro-anabolic hormone, and so a lot of people will say, oh, you need to eat more carbohydrates so that you can build more muscle. And it makes sense because those carbs are lifting insulin, and that higher insulin is pushing a person more into that anabolic rebuild and repair state. The problem is a lot of people have their insulin working too efficiently. So we hear all the time about insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, and your body isn't listening to insulin. And we understand that problem, but we need to understand that anytime an imbalance can happen in one direction, that it can happen in the other direction as well. So a lot of people have their insulin almost working like a bully. So when they eat carbohydrates, this really small amount of insulin sweeps way too much blood sugar out of the bloodstream too quickly. So even though they're eating the carbohydrates, they're not really raising insulin and pushing their body into that more anabolic rebuild and repair state. The other problem is that their insulin is creating such a hard sugar crash that when the sugar crashes, it really stresses the body out, and then the body raises stress hormones that tell the body, oh, well, we're in this emergency, we're really stressed out, so let's break down tissue and turn that into glucose so we have an immediate fuel source. So you really don't want your blood sugar spiking and crashing and stressing the body out and causing it to break down your own tissues. You want the body to rebuild. So if you feel like you're dealing with some sugar crashing issues, we'll put a link in the description below on our video for understanding hypoglycemia, because that'll walk you through how to correct that issue so that your insulin is not such a bully. And then when you eat carbohydrates, a little more insulin will come up and push you more into that anabolic state. You just want to understand how to look at your physiology and watch what's going on. You don't want to reduce the bully that is your insulin to become more insulin resistant until you're so insulin resistant that you're a type 2 diabetic. You want to keep your body in a balanced state. So step number 5 is to cycle the right carbs the right way. If the carbs that you're eating are donuts and candy bars and all this junk, you're really not helping your body out. You're really going to push yourself towards being insulin resistant a whole lot faster. You really want to eat real food. This stuff called real food, it grows out of the ground, or it grows from a tree, or it comes from an animal that was standing on the ground and maybe it peed on the tree. This is what real food is. And you want to include more carbohydrates to help lift that insulin level, but you want to do it in a way that you're not going to push yourself insulin resistant. We like to see people cycle carbs. So maybe you're eating some real food carbohydrates like sweet potatoes or yams, or maybe even some potatoes or some rice that's really high in carbohydrates. But you're doing that at part of the day. You don't want to eat those foods all day long. Maybe breakfast doesn't include any carbohydrates, so that gives you all night and then through breakfast to allow insulin to come down so that it's not screaming at the cells all day. Insulin takes a lot longer to come down than our blood sugar, so if we're eating carbohydrates throughout the day, we continue to spike insulin, and as long as insulin is really high, it's screaming at the cells to process all this glucose, and eventually the cells are like, yeah, I don't want to listen to that anymore. And now the person's going to become insulin resistant. So we like to see people eat enough carbohydrates to push them into that anabolic state, but we like to see them cycle those carbs for part of the day so that insulin has a chance to come down and the cells can continue to be receptive to that insulin. And that bonus step is to fix any symptoms that are going on at all with your health. Whether you're dealing with things like, oh, I got insomnia or depression or anxiety, or I have really bad menstrual cramps, or maybe I have a lot of sports injuries where I keep getting these injuries all the time. All of these are signs that the body is not operating the way that it's supposed to operate. And when that's the case, resources can be going from where they need to be dealing with some of these things that the body is viewing as an emergency. So when you want to add a lot more muscle, you really want the body to be able to operate optimally. Muscle is expensive. It takes a lot of energy to maintain that muscle. So we want to take any symptoms that we're dealing with and learn how to correct them. So you can go to our videos page, and in that search box in the top right corner, just put in whatever kind of symptoms that you're dealing with to see if you can learn about the underlying causes for those issues and steps that you might be able to take to correct those problems and help the body function a little bit better. So those are some important steps, and not all of those are going to be crucial for you, but you're probably going to go through and figure out, okay, this one is really what's mattering for me the most, and I need to put a lot of attention in that. So in the description below, check out the videos on those digestive issues to see if you're dealing with problems and not digesting your food correctly. And right now, just jump over and watch that video on Is My Circadian Rhythm Off and figure out if you might be leaning too far on that catabolic breakdown side. I can't wait to hear about your results.